It's a delight to come your way this moment with a role model dialogue. I welcome you to Truth TV, and on this show, we are bringing you amazing personalities who distill the stories of their journey and we transition between them. Today, we have an important personality who has been in business and consultancy and the personal development arena. So help me, let's welcome to the show, Patrick Otieku-Boadu. You're welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, Samuel. How are you?
I'm blessed. Hope you are doing good too.
You are the boss.
It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Good. I have known you for slightly over a decade now, and within that space, you've been committed to developing people in their area of career and business. Why has your focus been on such an area?
Well, thank you, Samuel, again. I think that if you look at the part of the world that we find ourselves in, and the fact that many of us have a lot of potential, and yet we are not able to utilize and implement and impact our timing and our generation, then I felt, the need to be able to become the stopgap, to be able to provide that particular resource in terms of personal development dynamics for individuals and for corporate organizations to be able to, bridge the gap between, basically what they're doing and then where they could actually be, because most of the time it's actually a disincentive when you see individuals not performing at their the capacity and being able to go beyond their potential or what they're currently doing. And it's very painful, when you see students not being able to go beyond the confines of the classroom and think beyond that. It's very disturbing when you see individuals working in the office and they cannot be creative and they cannot be innovative, and they are always waiting to be told what to do. It is very disheartening. So I decided to step in there and be able to, first of all, work on myself by getting the right resource and then the right qualifications to be able to help other people to be able to reach their ultimate goals and destinies.
Okay, so how long have you been in this business?
Well, I've been in this for more than a decade. Actually started by when I finished university. I started working at Ghana Telecom.
Okay.
Actually, with a batch they started the One Touch with.
Okay.
Then One Touch, which became, it was Vodafone. So I was there for 11 years. And
you were at Vodafone for 11 years?
Ghana Telecom, Vodafone for 11 years. And at a point in time, I felt that I was tired. Let me move on and do something more interesting, something I love to do. And I've always loved to train. I've always loved to share knowledge. I've always loved to share, new ideas with other people for it to inspire them, actually. So I started from there, started writing books way 2006, started writing books around that time, and then also speaking to students, speaking to other corporate organizations, even whilst I was still working at Vodafone, So after the 11 years, I left and decided to focus. I worked a little bit in church administration for about 5 years, and then from there I left and just said, let me focus on, building Spearhead Consult. That is my organization, where our focus and emphasis is to train and resource individuals within the corporate setting to be able to make them better and functionally, impactful.
Okay, I want us to go to your UCC days. How was life for you, like as a student? Now it looks like you have a very serious and focused life. Were you chilling and having fun when you were in school? How was you?
Well, I've always been the serious type, actually. I remember some of my colleagues, I have always approached life with that seriousness. I remember a number of occasions where, my colleagues would see me, and that time we had Walkman.
Okay.
You see Walkman in my ears, and where I'll be at the gardens, and I wasn't doing any of the course I was doing. I wasn't learning geography, I wasn't learning, economics, I wasn't learning any of the, what I was doing. I was reading about Brian Tracy, I was listening to Foster Hibbert, I was listening to Ogmandino. These are the people I was listening to at the gardens, because I believe that university is supposed to prepare you for life, not prepare you for exams. And unfortunately, many people are preparing themselves for exams, and that is the reason why when they are able to finish the exams and they come out into life, they are not able to perform. They are not able to do whatever they are supposed to do, because the university is supposed to be a learning grounds for you to be able to learn a lot of things. People go to the university, they don't learn how to organize, they don't join any antisocial, they don't do anything. But that is where you are supposed to practice. That is where you are supposed to learn. If you read the story of FedEx actually started from the university. You get what I'm saying? So, and many people take that opportunity because that is where, one, you are free, you are supposed to do things on your own. That is where you are supposed to do. So actually, a lot of other courses that can be taken even outside of the university environment. So you can be in the university and still be taking other courses. So by the time you finish, you would have many more courses and many more experiences that you could even put on your CV going forward. But unfortunately, the way we are training our people, it's a narrow-minded approach to the way we are training our people. So a lot of people go to the university, they are waiting for the lecturers to say something. They are not, they don't have the self-initiative. And therefore, we have all these challenges. And also for me, I've been a serious person all these while, and all the people tell me I should relax a little bit, and I try to do that. But I think that by and large, I have been, the very serious stuff. I've always looked at life seriously because I always feel that you need to be able to impact your generation, and whatever it is that you need to do, you need to be able to. And that is the reason, if you notice, consistently from 2006, I haven't stopped writing.
That's true.
Just this week, I released a new book. We just released a new book, and then I've been doing that consistently. And if you've also noticed, I've always been training. Almost 2 decades. I've been doing this for students, for corporate, for whatever, consistently for all these while. That is my passion.
Its viewers, thanks for joining us for the Role Model Dialogue. Our guest this moment is Mr. Patrick Otieku-Boadu. Patrick was the former head of terminal for Vodafone Ghana. He's a certified NLP Master Practitioner. Did I get that right,
yes,
sir? Good. He's a certified NLP Master Practitioner, and he's going to tell us what that is and what he uses that for. But I want to go again into your university education. What guided you to be focused at that point? Because normally in the university, you should be in your 20s, you should be young and vibrant, and you should want to live life. Yeah, so what made you determined to live your life in the other direction?
I think one of the things that really changed my perspective of life was the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I remember...
You read that book when you were in...
Just before I got to the university. I was at home and my brother brought a friend, and the friend dealt in books, sells books. And when the friend came, of course, the friend wanted to market to me, and he had done everything. I wasn't convinced. Actually, that time, my father kept a library, but I never read. And we always had that fight at home that, hey, read, I won't read, because I felt these African writers were boring. That's how he looked at it. So I remember this guy coming home and giving me a number of books, the Return of the Rag Picker, and then a few other things. And he said that, read this book. And then I said, oh, why should I read it?
Oh, the Think and Grow.
Think and Grow Rich. So when he gave me the Think and Grow Rich, I said, okay, let me start. When I started the book, I couldn't put the book down. And I began seeing myself in the book. I began seeing myself in the spirit and the context of the book. So I said that, what they are saying over there is something that is connecting. That is something that is resonating with me. So I felt that, look, I can do something like that. And all my life, I've always been sharing, as it were, sharing knowledge. So I just felt that, like, this is my environment, this is my field. Now, beyond that, I think when I went to the university, then I met Mr. Day-to-me. And I remember doing a presentation, Mr. Day-to-me said that, look, you have a public speaking voice, a very good public speaking voice.
The students, he came there.
Yes, he came there, exactly. Well, he had FFLI, so his organization. So he came there and he noticed me and he said, look, you have a great potential, so why don't you develop it? So from there, I didn't know what public speaking was and everything. So I started going into and studying about it. And I realized that, yeah, that's what I like. I mean, when I speak, it's able to make impact. I'm able to challenge people. I'm able to motivate people. So I started calling myself motivational speaker, as it were. So I started talking, yeah.
Starting about the mention of Think and Grow Rich, because I also got the opportunity to read it right after senior high school. I think then I was a teaching assistant in a senior high. Yeah, it was a senior high school, Montessori, that kind of school. And I had a teacher friend there who had the book, and I asked him for an opportunity to read it. Yeah. He gave me the book. It was a very thick book. Yeah. And he said I should read it and bring it to him in a week. Yeah. So I understand why you say you started and you couldn't put it down. So I took the book, I paid attention to it. The story is interesting, it's unique. He shares a lot of amazing principles and concepts. And I personally think that most books that we read now are founded or is guided by the Think and Grow.
A lot of people call him the father of motivational speaking. So a lot of people draw inspiration from him, But of course, I mean, over time, a lot of other people, more things have been developed, and some of the concepts that he proposed are not things that can easily be. You notice that you start practicing some of them and you realize at a point in time you will not be able to do them again because Some of them, habits are something that you need to develop over time. And sometimes there are other principles. And that is why the NLP bit comes in, and for me, it makes it more solid, because then you understand the dynamics of how human beings think and all that. So you are able to blend it. So, but it's a good start. It's a very solid start for any person who wants to look at life, in a different perspective.
Let's talk about your NLP program, because we have known you from one dimension, like you mentioned, as a motivational speaker. How did you transition from that point to now focus more on corporate training, and at what point did the NLP come?
I felt at a point in time that, yes, I've done all these things. I majored in geography. I'm doing sales in Vodafone. I rose through the ranks, and not through by my qualifications so much, but more of
Vodafone. What were you doing?
Well, the different things. I went in as an assistant manager, but then I graduated to sales and distribution, head of sales and distribution, consumer mobile head, for the phone booth we had in the secondary schools, we call it V booth, the head of it. And then from there I finally ended up becoming the head of terminal. So all the devices, I had to oversee them and all that. So that is how my role at Vodafone, basically. Okay,
so critically, head of terminal was a very important role. Why would you like to exit the company at the time where you are head of terminal?
You see, in life you need to understand what we call purpose. Purpose is what drives. So purpose is like air that we breathe. So you can be doing whatever. If it's not in line with your purpose, you will not enjoy life. You will not be happy in your life, in your own life. You wake up in the morning, you don't even feel like going to work, because that is not your purpose. It's not about the money you are giving. It's about something inside that speaks to you every day. So if at the end of the day you don't have that inner, that spiritual connection. When I say spiritual, please, I'm not talking about organized religion. I'm talking about that inner sense, the essence of being, the essence of life, the essence of existence. If you don't have that inner being, for it to make meaning to you, you can be there and sell all the devices. You can be there and do all the tailoring work. You can be there and do all the be the role, play a role, a master, the managing director, but you'll never be happy. Why? Because that is not what you are. That defines you. You are on this earth for a specific assignment, for a specific purpose, and that must be accomplished. Because that is the reason when you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like going to work on Monday morning. There's something wrong with your purpose. Okay, so that is what drives you. And for me, that is what drove me, for me to say that given the amount of money I was getting, given all the opportunities I had over there, given all those dynamics and everything, I'd rather leave and focus on something that I can create, something that is much more fulfilling. That even when I wake up in the morning and I don't have money on me, just because I'm able to help and impact other people, I am happy. And that is what drives you. That fuel that drives you is your purpose.
Good. We know when Vodafone came to take Ghana Telecom, there were a number of redundancies and a number of people were affected. Were you affected and you had to leave and pursue your purpose, or you decided to exit on your own to pursue your purpose?
I always tell people that in every organization, you grow or you rise by politics or by performance. I believe that there was no way anybody could have fired me from that place, because everywhere I find myself working, I put in 110%. Why? Because I believe that when you rise by performance, nobody can take you off. But when you rise by politics, that is where people can take you off. When a new set of management, a new management comes in, then they can take you away because you don't deserve to be there. So at a point in time after Vodafone has come, I was actually the head of the transition, the what we call the team lead for the migration. I led the team, so I played a very key role in transitioning from Ghana Telecom to Vodafone. So, and then after that, I was still there playing a role. But one day I just got up and felt that, look, actually sometimes when I go to the office, I didn't feel like being there. I felt more like being outside and training. I felt more like writing books. And I just felt that it's not ethical for me to be in that environment.
And be
struggling. So I just decided that, look, I'm going to move from there, and I moved.
Okay, we would go into what you are doing currently, but I want to appreciate a number of contributions you did at Vodafone. I know, for instance, you were part of the team that did the phone booths those days. We were using card to, am I right?
Yes. Actually, I was the person who introduced it. And I had a concept for it because I believe that, for instance, our students who are on school, they have about every secondary school has about 1,000, to the right, it's about 1,000 plus, okay, in every school. So my thinking was that, and then beyond that, we had about over 500 secondary schools in Ghana. So I'm talking about a population in excess of 500,000. In a secondary schools population. So I'm saying that, look, as a strategic thinker, why don't we put these booths there? Because the schools are not they are not permitted to use mobile phones, and then we give them free SIM cards. Now these SIM cards, they usually have the number. When they finish school and they come home, Vodafone could give them, basic handsets for them to still continue to use their number. But at least when they are in school, they can communicate with their parents. It was actually a customer acquisition strategy that I developed for them. But it looks like people did not understand the dynamics when I left afterwards. So they had to, water it down.
Okay, so okay, so as a business person, when you exited Vodafone, it's understandable that when you are Vodafone, looking at the role that you were in, you were enjoying huge salaries. You probably be benefiting from certain allowances. You probably be given a vehicle and all other things. To relinquish all that to come to start your own business, how was that journey like for you?
Well, it wasn't something that could be contested. I mean, why? Because the point is that I'm pursuing a purpose. So those things that didn't make meaning to me. You see, in life, there are three levels you live in. You can live in the level of what we call the things, the level of things. That is the level of pleasure. And that is you are surrounded by things. When they take those things away from you, you lose meaning in life. The second level is where we are talking about the level of activity. So people are called by a certain name. I am this, I am this. You are defined by an activity. You are defined by a role. Okay. Now the question is that for those people, the moment they retire and they cannot do the thing they used to do, they die early. Because that is how they've defined themselves. But that brings you a little bit of much more pleasure or much more fulfillment than the first level. But the best level is to live at a level of purpose, a level of meaning, where your life is much more meaningful. And that is why you don't define yourself by what you get or by what you are called, but you define yourself by impact. So at that time, it wasn't about the cars I was getting, it wasn't about the traveling, it wasn't about the money. It was more about what I was going to impact, how I'm going to impact my time and my generation. At the end of the day, if you die selling mobile phones, who know you? At the end of the day, if you die surrounding yourself with things, who know you? You get what I'm saying? What impact would you have made? And at the end of the day, but when you die having made impact, having shared, you see, your life is supposed to be a blessing or a lesson, or both. Your life is supposed to be a blessing or a lesson. A blessing means that if you take my family, I'm a blessing to them. Why? Because I provide for them. There are things they need. I have to make sure I provide for them. There are other people who are close to me. I provide for them, including you, including other people, other young people that I'm mentoring. So your life could be a blessing. But even if your life cannot be a blessing, your life could also be a lesson. So that at the end of the day, somebody can still look at you from a distance and still be impacted. People, you just said, you sent me a text that Conrad said, blah, 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 he has read my book. If I had not written the books, how on earth would he have contact with him? So yes, that is how it is. So my question is that if you are living on this life, is your life being a blessing or your life being a lesson? If you're not doing any of these things, then possibly check whether you are living. You're probably surviving. That is how come there are some people, when you mention their name, you go to Google right now and you type their name, nothing will come. Because nobody knows them. The world doesn't know them. They are not making any impact. It doesn't matter that you make a big impact. No, start with those small, little impact. And when you do that, it doesn't matter where you are. You become like the light. You can be covered. But people will look at you, will see you from different places and come to that particular light. Why? Because you have something to offer. And I see a lot of people living their life. They are not blessing and they are not providing lessons for people. And for me, that is key.
So given that a huge part of your career requires you to speak, to train, did you study communication at UCC?
No, I did geography and economics, and I majored in geography. Somebody will ask, what are you going to do with that? But I think geography gives you opportunity for you to analyze things systematically, look at relationships and all that. It's beautiful. So I did that, and from there I started working. I went to sales directly. I didn't have any sales background, but I went to sales because it wasn't more. You see, all those while when I was in Campbell, like I told you, for me, my objective was life, it's not exams. So whilst I was there, I was still reading about my Tracy's sales. I was reading about how to attend and pass an interview. I was doing all those things that were, for me, were most important about life and not about exams. So that is how I live my life. So I didn't do communication. I didn't do any of those things. It was more of the passion. So because of the passion, I started learning, I started studying, and I started impacting people. And from there, I graduated and went to do other courses because I felt that they were relevant. Because there are some places when you go there, for the door to be open for you, you need to show your qualification. That's true. For you to get into a plane, you need to show your passport. Okay, so there are some companies you can never be able to work with them if you can't show your qualification. So at least to fulfill all righteousness, as somebody will say, I had to get some of these certifications, but not just getting the certification, but actually the training, the dynamics, the lessons, the learnings was very key.
You're watching Role Model Dialogue on Truth TV. We'll be back after this break. You are tuned to Truth TV. We say the truth liberates. This is Role Model Dialogue. This show brings you up-close session with African personalities whose contribution on the continent and beyond are worthy of emulation. My guest today is in the person of Mr. Patrick Otieku-Boadu. Patrick blends his experiences in business, ministry, and his career in general, and he brings it to you at the comfort of your location. He's about to tell us what his NLP Master Practitioner certification is all about. It's probably my favorite by far.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I remember going to run a training for a company, and then when before I got there, actually they had shortlisted. Where a number of them are shortlisted. So, but somebody gave me a hint that somebody had indicated to them when they had a meeting that among the people they had shortlisted, I was the best amongst them, so they settled on me. But for some reason, I kept on getting calls from the organization telling me that all the big men were going to be there, the board chairman, the board members were going to be there in the meeting. It was a deb actually, and therefore they want my presentation to be, and because maybe they had not heard me speak before, trained before, so they were trying to make sure that everything was intact. But I was getting a bit uncomfortable, and I was asking myself, so what is it that these people really? About 3 people called from different departments, called me to make sure that everything is done. So eventually I went and I delivered. When I even finished delivering, I didn't even wait for my cash. I was just coming down the elevator. Then I met one of the ladies who had been calling me. And I asked her, were you happy with my presentation? And he said, you know what, truth be told, we've had people coming to talk, but yours is different. And yours was impactful. And we should have given you more money than we promised to give to you. Really? So when he said that, the question I asked myself was that, so why were they uncomfortable initially when I went in, when they were proposing me? So then when I got down, then I just realized that no, these are people, the corporate dynamic, the corporate language, you must speak the language. So I said that, look, if I could show these people some letters by my name, if I could show these people some certifications, some qualifications, I think they'll be much more.
Did you have a first degree by then?
No, I had a first degree. I actually had my master's. Okay. I actually had my master's. Okay, so I said that, look, there's something else these people are looking for. Then I asked myself, if I'd gone in and my name was Dr. Something, would they have been calling me and asking me that? No, I think they would have assumed that you are an expert in that. So I needed to go beyond just talking and just showing off that I can do that. So I started looking through what is it that I can do that will augment and that will enhance whatever I was doing, because I had a raw talent, but I needed to develop it further. And around those time, and I said, well, naturally you get resources gravitate when you are ready. So I realized around the same time then, I was speaking to somebody and he said, hey, look, there's a lady coming down to Ghana who is coming to teach people, blah, blah, blah. But whilst I was reading some of these motivational books, I came across NLP one way or the other, but I had never given thought to it.
What does NLP mean?
NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Nervous System Linguistic Languages Programming Processes. It's actually a pseudoscience, or if you will, a pseudo-psychology, but that focuses on communication and using the language to be able to model, success, basically.
So why should anybody appreciate this program after probably doing your first degree or second degree? How does it become an advantage to you?
No, I think it gives you a certain and deeper understanding of life and deeper understanding of human beings. And based on that, it's like a set of tools that you have. So today, if anybody calls me to come and treat any topic, I can just go to my tools box and I have a sort of tools to be able to work with a person. So it's very interesting. It's fun. It's life-changing, actually. And not only did I do the first level, that is the practitioner level, I went to do the master's level, because the master's level focuses on you changing yourself. And actually, we all run what we call patterns. Unfortunately, in a part of the world, we have a lot of dysfunctional families. And dysfunctional because mother is not there, dad is not there, shaped properly, and all those things. So at the end of the day, a lot of us grow up being dysfunctional, okay? So we need such a discipline to be able to work on yourself, to be able to stand out there and be able to make the kind of impact you want to make. But beyond that, you'll be able to also be a blessing to other people. Whilst you're working on yourself, you also be a blessing to other people. So it's a set of tools that we have. It was started in the 1970s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. They came together, and they studied some, experts in their field, and they modeled after those people like Regina Satter, Erickson, and Bateson, and all those other people. So it's been fantastic so far.
Viewers who are watching us now, how can you, for instance, use any of your models that you've spoken about to guide us in our behavior, our life, our journey?
Okay, let me give an example. For instance, behavior is an output. When we say behavior is an output, I've seen a lot of people trying to change behavior. You are wasting your time, because they attack behavior. Hey, my daughter is doing this. Hey, my colleagues in the office, they are not working. They are lazy. They are doing those things. The way you attack, because change is a door that can only be opened from the inside. Okay. Change is a door that can only be opened from. In other words, you can't change anybody. You can only change yourself.
So if it can be open from the inside, doesn't it mean that it cannot be open? Because who will go inside?
No, that means you yourself, the individual who wants, if the person desires to open, the person desires to change, then he can start the process of changing. And that you cannot legislate and command that somebody should change. It won't work. So sometimes I see people try to make their children should change. They are beating them. They are doing whatever, and then nothing is happening. Just look at, if you want to, just look at people who want to diet. How they struggle. People who want to change from a particular habit, how they struggle, because behavior is an output. So there's a certain resource that is needed, and the resource is already inside of you. So we have the level of behavior. So you want to change behavior? No, there are different levels. The behavior is in the context. You put a behavior in the context. Another thing that we don't think about is the content and the content. Behavior is the content. The environment is the context. For instance, if you I put water in a plastic or disposable container, and I put one in a metal cup, and I put fire under them, I'm going to lose both the content and the context of the cup of the plastic one, and the other one, yes, the water may heat up or do whatever, but it will still be in there. And so a lot of that we focus on the content. We don't focus on the context. So in our school environment, people are focusing on content. They are going to school, they are going to learn to pass and do all that. That is the content. But what about the context? When you put the same people in an office environment, will they be functional? If you put the same people in another environment, another culture, will they be functional? I had a young one of the young men I'm training, and then he's in medical school now, but he had to travel to go and do a course in India, and then he's very religious. I'm not going to mention, but very Pentecostal, very religious. Now, he went to, and his class had Buddhists, he had all these religious, this thing, and for the 2 weeks he was struggling. 2 weeks he was struggling, and when he came down, he said that my church did not prepare me for the world. My church did not prepare me for life, and it's true. You see, so we have trained people, we have made them narrow-minded, even sometimes through religion, through our churches.
Is that what the church is supposed to do?
That is not what it's supposed to do. We are supposed to let people open up and expand their way of thinking, their way of approach. And that is what, if you look at Jesus Christ, that is what he came to do. He came to give us, he was always talking about the mind. and you have heard it said, but I'm saying it this way. What was he doing? He was changing a misunderstanding, a misrepresentation of even a scripture, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. So this NLP at the end of the day helps us to structure our behavior very well.
Yes.
Good. So for you in this model, how do you understand behavior?
Well, like I said, behavior is, if you will, behavior is the output that an output. So you cannot technically change the behavior itself, but there are filters that leads to the behavior, which you can change the filter. So when
that leads to a person's
behavior, and I give you an example. A filter, for instance, is your belief system. Okay, your worldview, which is part of the belief system, your values, what is important to you in life. Because what is important to you in life, if I change it right now, I always say that, look, you are a young person, you have a daughter. If I tell you to jump from the top of this building down, and I'm going to give you 2,000 cedis, you probably will not do it. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, even 10,000, you probably will not do it because you think you die. Assuming your daughter is up there, and this whole place, God forbid, this whole place is burning, and I ask you to jump without giving you money with your daughter, you would easily jump. Why? What is motivating you now to jump? It's the same behavior I wanted you to change, but you were not changing even when I was offering you money. But right now, you are changing because there is life involved. And that is how we need to understand that there are filters behind every behavior. Look, every behavior you see, behind every behavior, there's an intention. Even armed robbers, there's an intention behind the behavior.
Does that mean that what they are doing is justified?
No, it's not justified, but what I'm telling you is that there is an intention. In other words, the behavior is supposed to meet a need. So there is a certain intention. So the person has a need. I want to meet the need. He feels that this is the way this is the channel, or this is the channel when I go through, I'll be able to meet that particular need. So to him, he feels that when he does that, it makes him feel important. For somebody has a problem with self-esteem, he feels that when he does armed robbery, it makes him feel important. People talk about him, yeah, the guy, yeah, it mentioned his name and things like that. It makes him feel important. So all this, or maybe he's not felt, his experience did not make him to feel important. So to that person, the action of whatever he's doing, though unethical, though socially it's not accepted, but to him, it's making sense to him. And that is how you need to study people. Because other than that, you just get up and say that this person is wrong, this person is wrong, this person is wrong. No. So there are filters behind every behavior. So once you touch a filter, the behavior will change. And I see people try to change behavior, and that is why they are struggling. You cannot do that because it's an output.
Okay, you have used the word filter in a couple of times. We'll try to delve into what filter is and see which kind of filter each person is using. This is Truth TV. We'll go for a commercial break. Welcome to Role Model Dialogue on Truth TV. My guest this moment is Mr. Patrick Otieku-Boadu, who is a certified NLP Master Practitioner. Before we went for this break, he was speaking on filters, and now he's going to take us through the types of filters we have and how relevant it is to you.
If you have a car and the car is not performing too well, if you take it to the mechanic for servicing, apart from changing the oil and all, they'll change some filters. Why? Because these are filters through which there may be the fuel or whatever goes through, and the air or whatever, so air filter, fuel filter, and all that. Now, if you take every human being, we look at things and we behave through filters, based on filters. So a filter, for instance, is like what is important to you, your value system is a filter. So if you want to change the behavior, sometimes what a person is doing is important to him. It makes the person feel good. So instead of attacking the behavior and say that stop this, do this, or do that, or don't do that, why don't you go back and talk about what is important to the person? Now, I traveled the other time and I wanted something to be done. Okay. Now, I was running a training some time ago, and one of the ladies who came in first for that session, I had engagement. I had a little discussion with him. And whilst we were talking, I had unsolicited, she had started telling me about her son. I never asked about her son. I didn't actually know much about her background and everything. But she started telling me about her son. Now, what does that mean? It means this son of hers is very important to her. So I noted that her son is important to her. So for about 5 minutes that I had engagement with her, she had mentioned the son's name about 10 times within 5 minutes. So I noted it. So when I traveled and I wanted something to be done, and I knew that she was in a position to do that, when I called her, I with all the pleasantries and everything, then I asked, how is your son doing? And then she lighted up. And she started talking about her son. So after about a few minutes, I asked her, look, I want you to do something for me. He said, what is it? Then I mentioned what I wanted to do for me. That thing could have taken about a whole day for her to do. It actually took less than 15 minutes for her to do it for me. Why? Because I understand the dynamics of filter, which changes behavior. So I only worked on her filters. I worked on what is important to her. And when I talked about that, she lighted up. And once she lighted up, she was in a good state, a positive state, mental state. And therefore, whatever I requested for, she could do it for me with joy, as it were. So that is how we work with people. If you want to change people, you don't go struggling, banging tables and telling people to change their behavior and all those things. If you know their filter, that is one. The other filter we can talk about, a very strong filter, is your belief system.
So what we just spoke on is values.
Values. Another one is, there are many of them, but I'm just going to talk about just a few. The other one is your belief. What do you hold to be true? Okay, all of us are here. If you see a cockroach, somebody, a white cockroach comes here, somebody says an insect. Somebody says, no, this is not an insect, you've sent him from the village. That is the person's reality. So from that time he sees that, he said, they have sent him from the village. That is a spiritual dynamic. That is what he did. That is his reality. So because of that, he's going to react, in a particular way. Okay, so that is how it is, and that is the person's reality. If you say anything, he's not going to understand. And look at the way we even kill people. We call something honor killing because maybe the person has flouted a religious belief or something like that. It's all parts certain belief. You go to corporate organizations and people hold a certain belief, and because of that they can't do something, so they can do some things. If you believe that you're not supposed to take, for instance, blood transfusion, why would you do that? Because you don't believe it. If you don't believe you can achieve something, why would you do it? You can't do it. If you send salesmen to go out, they don't believe they can make sales, why would they go? Why would they make impact? They will not be able to do it. So belief is a filter. So if you want to change the behavior, change the person's belief. Encourage the belief, work on the belief, and let them have a solid belief. And when you do that, you'll be able to do that. Actually, there are two sets of things. We have what we call filters, and we have drivers. Okay, drivers are much more stronger, like purpose. I spoke about from the beginning. Purpose is a driver. When you work on people's drivers it just sets them in a mood, and you get them to do whatever you want them to do for you. So that is it.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your work now. What do you do now?
Well, I'm a corporate trainer, so I run training for corporate organizations, and I specialize in behavior and emotional management, stress management, functional leadership development, and goal setting and customer. And I just released a new book, and usually whatever I'm teaching, I try to support it with material so that it makes it easier for the people when you go on board. You have the material, and we are even working on workbooks as well, so that they have the book material, reference materials. They have a workbook, because you see, most of the books that we bring down, they are not set in our context. So you can't
talking about the foreign
books. So sometimes you can't relate. People cannot relate. But if I'm writing for the corporate Ghana, then I can set some of these things in context, and they will be able to help them.
Okay, so I have read quite a number of your books. I think I've read almost all of them. This is one of my favorites, Living Beyond Boundaries and Systems. In this book, I think that we try to explore certain things that limit us, and at the end of the day, how we could go beyond that. With such a good book like this, how is it doing on the Ghanaian market?
Well, it's doing, actually, you see, my books are in three. I've three types, or three areas. I look at religious, so because I'm also a Reverend Minister, so this is a typical religious book, Assurance of His Presence, and the other one too, this also religious. So again, I write for the church community. Okay, that is these type of books. Then I have books I write for the youth. So if you look at things like Spearhead, Opportunity, those are youth-based books. And then I write corporate books. Actually, for these times, I'm doing more corporate books. That's where the money is.
I see. Interesting. I did read a number of your books, especially when I was in senior high school. So I think I read Spearhead, then I read Enlisted. I recall typically 1/9 before our exam. I was prep prefect in final year. So we had a social studies paper to write in school. and there was no motivation to study. You know that thing when you study that you've reached a certain threshold. But then as per prefect, everybody studying, I also had to. So I took one of your books, enlisted to read. Yeah, and that book spoke about you being enlisted for like a battle, something. So it spoke on certain things that can help you to win that battle. And spoke about like vision, purpose, quite a number of things. Oh, when my social studies paper came, they asked some question, and the question was just in line with such elements, and I was just, I mean, it was like I had read the Apple the ninth before, and it was quite an impressive.
Those are the things that actually inspire me to do more, because, and actually the truth is that I write under inspiration. So there are times when I finish writing the book and the book is printed and I come back and I'm reading the book, sometimes I get surprised that I wrote those words, you know, and that is why I'm saying that I write under inspiration.
Do you think you are touching lives?
Greatly. Amazingly. Because if I look at the impact these books have made, a lady called me all the way from Bolga, and he said he read my book, and when he read my book, he started her own business, and many of such stories, you know. And somebody is going to preach, you take my book and read the book. He's got the message to go and preach, you know, a very powerful message to go and preach. So I think that for me, I take my books seriously. When I write books, I take them seriously. And I, like I told you, I write an inspiration. So those times, I'm not the best of friends, because I need to be in tune, as it were, to be able to download, if you will, to be able to write.
Do corporate organizations get results when they invite you?
Fantastic. They do get a lot of results. Actually, most of the time when I train, because it's related, they buy the books and it's impactful. And the books are such that the good thing is that if you want to get the best out of it, have a discussion around the book. So take various topics and have a discussion. And most of the books I'm writing now, the corporate ones, there's always summaries at the back. There are always exercises at the back, and we're going to add the workbooks to them. You know, so it's been very fantastic. I mean, the feedback has been very positive and phenomenal. I mean, it amazes me myself.
In another conversation we'll have, we'll take one of your books. I think we'll do your goal setting book and put it into perspective on this show. So please do stay tuned with us on Role Model Dialogue. We'll bring Mr. Patrick Otieku-Boadu once again on another show. We want to talk a little bit about your family. Is your wife a trainer too? Are your kids also into training?
You know, I always allow people to do whatever they want to do around me. So my wife is a banker. Of course, eventually she'll leave the banking and focus on her own dream. She's also a musician. Actually, she's a gospel singer. So she wants to do whatever she wants to do. I'll encourage her to do it. She's a banker. And then I have 3 children, a boy who just turned 18. He's a big boy. So he's moved to the outhouse. He says he's a big boy. So he'll be going to the university in November, December, thereabout. And then there are 2 girls. One is in the secondary school, Wesley Girls, and the other one is in Form 2, going to Form 3 in a basic school. So that is it.
So when a company wants to engage your services for training, how do they reach you?
Well, you can call me on 020-65-00-004, 020-65-00-004, or you can look for my full name, Patrick Otieku-Boadu, on LinkedIn, and they get all the details that you want. Yeah.
Mr. Patrick Otieku-Boadu, it's been a delight to have you on the Role Model Dialogue. Viewers, thank you so much for joining us on Role Model Dialogue exclusively on Truth TV. We say the truth liberates. Join us same time next week. It's been a delight having you here.